heard that part. Okay, bless you all. Tell us about hyaluronic acid, what you're doing with it.
So what happened? I have this thing. I don't even know what it is that's going on in my body because I've had it for a long time. I ended up in the ER. I thought I almost died. And of course they tell you it's something, right? I tested for it, all these things. This has all been going on. And, you know, I've done some work with you, Christy, and you're like, nope, that's not what it is. And now I'm finding out, you're right. That's not what it is because PCRs are lies. They're lies. And so as I started this healing journey like a year ago, the more stuff, the cleaner I got my water, my food, and all other kinds of things. And I was already eating healthy. All of a sudden, the body just started healing itself. And I'm like, whoa. And so I'm still doing some acupuncture and I'm still having some issues, always left side. Well, last acupuncture visit, it made my eye do something weird. And so I start panicking. So I start looking up everything for eyes. And my head, of course, tells you all the worst things. You know, you have a torn retina. And I'm like, I do not. And I'm reading all this and my brain's trying to just say, you're going to have to go see the eye doctor. And I said, I am not going to the eye doctor. If God says I go to the eye doctor, fine, I'll go. But I'm not going to the eye doctor just because my brain is telling me I got to go. And so I started looking stuff up, and sure enough, eventually God led me to the right information. And it's all that your eyeball sits in behind your eyeball is like a big sack of fluid. And that I call it jelly. It's like jelly. That jelly, sometimes if it shrinks a little bit or something, it comes away from the balloon that holds that sack of jelly. And that's what they're calling a torn retina. And they're like, oh, if you don't have it go looked at, it'll tear, and all this will happen. And I'm like, oh, I don't believe this. So I ended up finding stuff about eye floaters and how to get rid of those. And I've been taking stuff for that. And then the other one, though, turns out all that jelly stuff in the eye socket, turns out that's all hyaluronic acid. It's mostly made up of hyaluronic acid. And I'm like, well, okay. It's like, can't you order that off of Pure Bulk?
Well, and if you don't know what hyaluronic acid is, so I used to work with, I'm going to fill in just a little bit here for you. I used to work with a lady named Christina something, I can't remember her name, highfalutin Hollywood lady. She's on, she was married to some big Hollywood star. Say it again.
Suzanne Summer?
No. Christina Fulton.
Oh, okay.
She was married to some dude. If you look her up, you'll find her ex-husband and you'll be like, oh, you'll know him, but you won't know her. It's that kind of a thing. But she had a makeup company, and it was always about the hyaluronic acid and the vitamin C. When you combine the two, it's like amazing for getting rid of wrinkles on your
skin.
face.
Yeah.
But it turns out that's the fluid in your eye, that sac in your eye. So it just absorbs through your skin. It does all kinds of amazing things. And they make it so pricey you can't afford it. So while I was doing work with her, she would always promise to give me some of her product, which clearly she did not. My wrinkles are still wrinkly. And I'm just like, and now Suzanne's like, oh, you just go buy it. You just go buy this stuff. I'm like, seriously?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. And at the bottom of the Pure Bulk thing where you can order it, they actually have the recipe. They tell you how to do it, how to put it together. It took me all of like maybe 3 minutes to make it. And then you add ascorbic acid, which we know is just vitamin C. So you add that preserves it, and then it's good for 3 months. And so I just mix it all together.
$200 for a little serum, a little tube of serum. Let's jump in here because I don't want to keep you guys too late tonight, and I tend to drone on sometimes. So who all watched? Everybody watched some semblance of the snake thing. So you know what's going on, basically. You know what's being said. You've got kind of the basic gist of it. I want to make sure, first of all, because if you watched the one that was from Stu Peters, it gave you whatever information. If you watch the one from Mike Adams, you get way more. And that's the one I started watching yesterday, I guess. And then I got even more insights after that on things that I was not expecting, which is what I want to give you more information on this. So if you understand, and I don't know what all he went through on the one from Stu Peters, but I know he was saying, you understand remdesivir appears to be, and he's like definitely certain on this, Cobra Venom, right? So remdesivir is the first drug of choice that they're giving to people in the hospitals when you enter a hospital.
The only drug of choice. The only drug of choice they'll let them.
Yeah. So they're giving that, and he's saying that it is Cobra Venom. It's like dried out Cobra Venom, and they're just rehydrating as you're shooting it straight into your veins. There's an semblance of that also in the shots. So if you've taken the shots, or if you know somebody who has, and that's the whole point of this, if you have taken the jabs or gone all the way through the protocol or whatever, is there a way to actually, and probably not totally turn it around, but is there a way to start protecting your system better? And the answer to that seems to be yes, even though I just now watched a video from Dr. Tenpenny who absolutely said no if you took the shot, but she still doesn't know about the snake venom part of it. So, and Suzanne's giving information on the stuff. Grab that. I'm like all over it. I think that's amazing. So understand that, right? Remdesivir is poison. It is the venom. You don't want to take that. You don't want to be in the hospital. The monoclonal antibodies, I think he talked about them on both, are the antivenom.
Antivenom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, literally. I'm going to actually ask everybody to turn their microphones off for just a second because I'm getting a lot of feedback. Oh. There we go. So monoclonal antibodies are the antivenom. And for a while, they were saying that was good. They wanted you to have the monoclonal antibody. And then all of a sudden, they pulled back and said, no, you can't have them. And now the regime is like totally taking them out of the system, so you can't get hold of them at all. And they don't want you to have them. But it turns out it is the antivenom to the venom that they're poisoning you with, which is why they don't want you to have it, which is just crazy and weird. How did it get out there to start with? He never really went into that. But I want you to watch this with me. Let me see if I could share my screen really quick. I want to optimize. I want to go here. That's part 3. We want part 2. So this is kind of where he starts talking about directly what you can do, and then a deeper understanding of how you can totally alter your own system. And this is more, I mean, it's useful if you've taken the shots. It's useful if you're just getting sick, like my family tends to. My husband and I tend to catch something that they would equate to COVID every time we turn around. He has totally lost his taste and his sight, and we'll go into that here in just a second as to what that is. But this is a reversing part. So if you want to take notes on this, take notes, and we'll go back over it again afterwards. I'm going to play this video for approximately, I think, 7 minutes. And this is part 2 of part 3 of Dr. Brian Ardis on Mike Adams' show. So you can find it at brighteon.com, and I'll drop the link in the box so you can find it even easier. But there is so much information in this series of 3 that it'll blow your mind. But I want you to listen to this first.
Talk about some of the solutions. Venom-derived neurotoxins target nicotinic acetylcholine receptors.
Oh, I've seen this come up in the literature.
This was huge in the beginning of SARS-CoV-2. Do you remember that around the world, hospitals were reporting that amidst this acute respiratory distress syndrome they were calling SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19, hospitals around the world were reporting this odd thing they were noticing. The least demographic of all people hospitalized with SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 were smokers. They said it was less than 5% around the world were being hospitalized for COVID-19 who were smokers. It was the least.
Yes. It was the nicotine.
And as they were actually reporting this is not a joke. They started reporting this, and up and through May, they were reporting on it. Our FDA, NIH, and CDC immediately went into action in May of 2020 and started telling everybody in the media, everyone in the world needs to know the highest, most likely demographic group to end up in being hospitalized for COVID-19 were smokers. They flat out lied to everybody and said, now there's never been a better time than to quit smoking.
Oh my. Because in this case, the nicotine could have saved you.
Absolutely. These nicotine acetylcholine receptors, if you use nicotine, it blocks these neurotoxins inside of snake venom from vipers. You could totally handle SARS-CoV-2 with nicotine. I'm not joking. People as I've learned this stuff, is people have called me, hey, doc, I'm struggling with the Omicron variant or Delta variant if they got diagnosed with COVID-19 from a PCR test that I think is bogus anyway. If they were struggling, all I did was send them to go get Nicorette gum or nicotine patches. And I would tell them, look, you've been struggling for 2 weeks. Just put this stuff in there, 48 hours or less, all over with. This is the one and only thing that doctors around the world are missing because they don't realize it's venom. It's neurotoxins from viper venom. And they attack the nicotine receptors in your brainstem that control your diaphragm's ability to breathe. Then you drop your oxygen. That is what these neurotoxins do. It is not a lung infection. This is a venom poisoning. And it's getting into your brainstem through your blood supply, crossing the blood-brain barrier, which is what this venom's designed to do, paralyzes your diaphragm's ability to breathe. Your oxygen levels are dropping. These people need nicotine to bind to those receptors because venom will be secondary to bind to them. This is huge. I'm telling you, everyone around the world needs to know this. Any variant that comes up in the future, you need to use nicotine.
I'm going to have to add some items to my stockpile of emergency medical supplies at this point.
That's right. I do not recommend
have nicotine gum yet.
We do not recommend smoking.
Right. I'm not recommending smoking.
Nope. I do not recommend it at all.
Nicotine patches and things like that.
Right. Absolutely. But that's what this venom does.
You know what? Tobacco is actually easy to grow, too. I used to grow tobacco in Ecuador.
Did you?
But it's regulated in the United States. But anyway, you can grow tobacco. You can make a nicotine tincture, theoretically.
Is there a regulation on how many tobacco plants you can grow? Is there like a limit?
There are some kind of crazy regulations.
Okay.
But whatever.
We can explore that. Maybe something new from BrideyOnStore.com in the future.
Yeah, if we survive all the snake venom, we can figure out how to grow nicotine. Okay.
So I want to go into this study because this reads just like SARS-CoV-2. Read it. Nicotinic acetylcholine receptors are channel-coupled membrane receptors activated endogenously by acetylcholine, together with GABA, 5-HT3, and zinc-activated ion channels. You have to understand, nicotine and zinc is targeted. Zinc receptors are targeted by snake venom. I told Zev, I was like, Zev, he didn't even know this when I filmed this. He doesn't know what I'm working on, Dr. Zev Zelenko. But I told him, please keep harping on hydroxychloroquine and zinc. This is why they keep punishing doctors for recommending zinc. Zinc will block the negative impacts of snake venoms.
Right, and this explains the effectiveness of the zinc ionophores with quercetin.
Exactly right.
Right.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And right, so the media was attacking zinc, attacking everything that worked.
Yep.
Okay.
So let's just stop here for a second before I even go any further. I just want to touch on a few things that everyone needs to be focused on. Every person treating COVID from here on out.
Very important.
It doesn't matter what the variants, more are coming. They're not finished with their agenda. Nicotine is number one. You need to consider nicotine supplementation. I don't care if it's in a patch, a gum, little packets you can dissolve underneath your tongue, like people dip tobacco. There's a little nicotine package you can just put in there. It's not actually tobacco. Nicotine, these patients need to be taking. 2, zinc they need to be on. Number 3, they need to be on hydroxychloroquine or ivermectin. These are zinc ionophores. I actually prefer hydroxychloroquine.
Really?
Yep, absolutely. If I'm right, on the remdesivir emergency use authorization, they only talk about one drug that cannot be co-administered with remdesivir. They don't say ivermectin. They say hydroxychloroquine. They say it's an antagonist to the antiviral properties of remdesivir. Hydroxychloroquine and anti-malarial drugs, which are anti-parasitic drugs, are proven to block and inhibit snake venom poisoning. And it's been that way for like 100 years. And I'm not joking, like 100 years. It's phenomenal. So you have nicotine, zinc, hydroxychloroquine, or ivermectin if you want to. I prefer hydroxychloroquine. NAC to block the blood clotting factors. Some people say, what about aspirin? Well, they're using several forms of venom. You don't know if you're getting the anticoagulant, and if you're taking aspirin, it's going to make it too thin.
Right.
And then you could have internal bleeding and hemorrhaging as a result. So I'd be careful with the aspirin part. And then, so NAC, anyway, that's what you're going to start with. That's plenty. That'll actually take care of all of them.
Okay. What were your takeaways from this? This is where, and I'm laughing, it's not funny, but to me, I'm just like blown away. Who knew you had nicotine receptors in your brainstem? I never heard this before. I was like, what? And they are directly responsible for controlling your diaphragm? What? What is this? It was kind of my awakening when I heard him say that. I think I fell out of my chair. Fletcher Petrie is my new heartthrob. Actually, smoke away, my friend, smoke away. And I don't recommend smoking. This is like my husband's great friend, Fletcher, Abby's his wife. And all the time, so we're like always giving him a hassle. But he's probably never had to deal with COVID on the level that we have. Like, what? Has anybody ever heard of this? Has any of you ever heard of these receptors, nicotine receptors? It's like the CBD receptors.
Right.
The cannabidiol, right? That supersedes your, and like, whoever heard of that until like a handful of years ago?
Yeah.
I knew
that remdesivir, when Biden said that it was the only thing they were going to approve, it had passed through the trials, the Ebola trials, and I actually went into those trials, and it never even made it to the end of the trial. It was pulled from the trial because it killed 57% of the participants that were on it.
Yeah, he talks a little bit about that, but yeah. But the fact that you can stop all of this, because if the remdesivir is true, and he kept saying that too, if it's truly what he thinks it is, which is cobra venom, and there's two different snakes he actually thinks it's coming from because it has two different types of activity in the system. But if it's truly that, and the number one thing that you can do for your system is nicotine. So I started looking up nicotine, right? Because I'm not going to smoke. I already have enough asthma issues. My husband and my son are both dippers. They chew for forever, right? And so my son walks upstairs last night with a can of this. And I'm like, what is that? Because I was talking to him about this, and he goes, you need to look into this. It's not a tobacco product. It's just nicotine. He calls it crystals. It's nicotine crystals, and it comes in many different flavors. I'm like, what? So my background, and I'm the nuthead, right? I will try anything once or twice. And I used to chew when I was in high school, right? I was one of the cowboys in high school. So I used to dip. It wasn't a big deal to me, but these come in these little tiny patches. Can you see that? It's like a little pillow, right? So, and they make dip like this too. You can get actual tobacco in these little pouches that you just stick in your lip if you don't want to be drooling all over yourself. But it's just the nicotine itself. And then Dr. Artis actually mentions these. He mentions this stuff in one of the videos.
What's in it? What's the ZYN stand for?
It's the name. It's their brand name. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is a addictive chemical, is what they call it. What's in it?
I just thought maybe the ZYN standard for zinc or something. Maybe they have some in it.
Oh, no. Yeah, I doubt that. Although, I mean, who knows, right? It doesn't really have an ingredient list on it that I can see. But you can look it up. The company itself, their website is zyn.com. They sell it at the gas station, right? There's a 3 milligram. This is a 3 milligram patch. There's, or pouch. There's 6 milligram pouches. And he mentioned this stuff. There's tobacco-less, right? The other thing I found, which I found even more appealing, let me share my screen one more time, is an herbal product called Lobelia, Lobelia.
Lobelia.
Yes. And it is what a lot of people will turn to when they're trying to quit smoking. Right. And this is actually, I think the type that I bought was an alcohol-free, organic, farmed. This might be the exact one I got. I don't even remember. But then you can just dose drops of it. Right. So you can either do what it says on the container, or you can, muscle test, which is what I would do. Ask how much you need every day. I work around people that shed. So we're constantly battling with the shedding issue. But the molecule of this, what I found out, is the molecular structure of Lobelia is most closely resemblant to that of nicotine. So from plant to plant, from the Lobelia plant to the tobacco plant, this has the closest resemblance of which is why it helps people with their nicotine cravings. All right, let me figure out how to get back to it. So nicotine is number one. Who knew? This is really cracking me up. I think this is the craziest thing. Does anybody else have recommendations for sources of? Faith actually said that she knew about the nicotine receptors, and I think you're the only one that said you'd heard of that previously, so kudos to you. I'm behind the times on that one.
Yeah, I knew CBD. I knew we had CBD receptors, and the hydroxychloroquine is an antivenom, and you can make hydroxychloroquine. There's recipes all over YouTube on how to make homemade hydroxychloroquine. You don't have to get addicted.
It's up there. I'm like Suzanne. I'm a mad scientist. I make all kinds of stuff. So I'll probably try. And actually, I have tobacco seeds already. So when all this started falling apart, because both of my guys dip, I was like, well, we got to figure out some way to keep you in your stuff. So I started buying tobacco seeds a long time ago. I haven't grown any of them yet, but I definitely have them.
We'll come and break you out of jail.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much is legal or what any of that stuff. HCQ yet. Who says that? Suzanne. I haven't tried. Oh, making it? Yeah. It's easy. It's just lemon and lime and citrus pills, and you boil the snot out of it. I actually canned some of it in the early onset of this in case we couldn't get citrus up here. So why do you think your husband got COVID if he did? He stopped. He quit because I'm a hound. Like, you need to because he used to let everything go for a while. He would stop for a few months and then go for a few months and then let his body, and he quit stopping for all through COVID. Right. And I'm like, you need to just let everything calm down for a while because he's kind of turning into a wreck. And I'm like, so on February 14th, he quit chewing. And when he quit, his sense of smell, and it's still gone. He has no sense of his smell is iffy. Sense of taste is totally gone. And for a chef, that's horrific. Like, what do you do? Right. So now he's like, I can have these. I can have anything you want. My hands are in the air. I surrender. You do you. I will do me. Everybody will be fine.
Well, hydroxychloroquine is really an antivenom. I don't think we have to go to nicotine. There's other benefits. And have you heard of all the benefits of ivermectin? I take ivermectin every single day.
I had to quit taking it every day because it started tearing my stomach up because I was doing that. We do have hydrochloroquine now, but I think we do it like twice a week. We do it like a Sunday medicine. We were doing
hydroxychloroquine.
Yeah. We actually have the tablets now. We found a doctor in Utah that would prescribe. So we have the tablets. And I'm following what he just said. He said his number one recommendation And so what you're trying to do, like understand the physiology, if you have a receptor site and it is not full of what it is supposed to be full of, you're leaving yourself open for all kinds of stuff, even if hydroxychloroquine will block the action. If that receptor site's full, you have a better chance of not having an issue to start with, right? So early on in the whole CBD thing, with the receptor sites for cannabidiols, I was part of a study where it was like, how do you fill the receptors up? What's the most effective way to get a benefit from CBD? And one of the things they took us through was eating tons of fat. So it was avocados and coconut oil and olive oil, like however you wanted to get your fat in, you had to get a certain amount of fat in every day. And then you had to take your CBD oil, right? So it was a matter of getting the CBDs into the receptors because they were probably, and I mean, I can't describe it the way they described it, but they were dry for so long. My receptors wouldn't even receive the CBD. It would like bounce off because they had been used or unused for so long, right? So it was like filling the system up with fat first, and then the fat was able to easily transfer it. And I don't know if nicotine receptors are the same way. It still cracks me up even saying that we have nicotine receptors in the brainstem. What on earth? I don't know, but I would do this with an amount of fat or something to help it get into the receptor site. Because if the receptor site's full, then everything else will probably do its job better, including the hydroxychloroquine. And the list, the way he went through it, it was nicotine was number one, and he was very, very, very open about that. He then says, oh, well, we have such natural machinery we got to bring back online. We do, right? It is. It's totally natural. And then zinc was number two. Hydrochloroquine was number three, or NAC was number three. I do know that they're pulling NAC off the shelves right now. So if you don't have NACs, those are going away because it is high on the level of like quick fixes for this stuff is taking NACs. You can.
What
so
is
you can't.
NAC?
It is, somebody say the word. I never can say it right. N-acetylcysteine.
Acetylcholine.
Choline, thank you. NACs. And it's actually the precursor to glutathione. So in your system, right, you have to have that first in order to even produce glutathione. But you could effectively do it the other way around too. If you can pump enough glutathione into the system, you can get your system to bump the NACs. And Sue's just now threw in there, MSM also boosts glutathione. Yes. It will help boost glutathione. If you take those two together, they really complement each other well into the system, the MSM and the glutathione. They actually gave me, my doctor gave me naturopath after the first doctor totally denied me anything, gave me liquid glutathione to put in my nebulizers. So I'm inhaling glutathione. There we go. Faith put that in the box. N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine. Yeah, I actually just bought some off Swanson Vitamins last night too, because they had a 40% sale out going on or something. I'm just saying get it while you can, because word's going around that they're taking it off the shelf. So, and I'm sure some of the vitamin companies will fight it. Yeah, MSM, DMSO. I can't think of the name of the other one. It's the one that Trump was telling everybody when he said drink chlorine. It's what he was talking about, but it wasn't chlorine. Chlorine dioxide is also a derivative of MSM and DMSO. I actually have crystallized MSM, and I put it in boiling water when my lungs get really bad, and I just put a towel over my head and I inhale it. MMS. I started MSM because it dissolves the eye floaters. Yep. So all of that. There's a lot there. Anybody have any questions or any comments or anything? Ideas, other stuff that nobody knows about? Miss Lily?
I think that one of the things that I am really, really working on learning, I need this more than anybody, but I think we need to start listening to our individual bodies, not only testing before we spend the money or start taking something, because all of our bodies are different, but when there's something going on, actually listening to the message of that. You know, when I have an eye issue, my eye is twitching, or I've got a sty, I've got something, I know there's something that I'm not looking at that I need to look at. And on that level, you can resolve a lot of stuff without ever getting any sicker or taking medication or trying to fix it through a bunch of supplements or this, you know, our bodies are a messenger to us that we're either aligned or we're out of alignment.
Always. Yeah. And I haven't gotten that far, but thank you for throwing that in there. That's absolutely, I always ask my body. And if I am taking something, I ask how much I should be taking. I never follow what it says on the bottle.
Yeah. It's hard to just be still and go, what is the message of my pain? What is the message of this issue that's coming up right now? Because there is a message, and that message will find resolution. We'll find resolution with that message without having to go out and find a bunch of stuff. Our body will rebalance itself. Just getting the message.
Sometimes I disagree with that. Well, I'm out to lunch, and I'll tell you why. I don't know that there's a message as to why these people are trying to kill all of us. I don't know that my body is going to be able to respond to that in a way that I can understand well enough. I can test and say, do I need, like this stuff, which is why it makes me laugh, because my body's all over this. I mean, I could probably just like carry this in my pocket all the time and just get more benefit from having it near me just from the vibration of it than I can't even explain how bad my body wants this. It's so crazy to me, but there's no message in the fact that these, in my world right now, I just look at it like they're trying to get rid of us for their own purposes, but I don't think there's I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody.
Yeah, sure, it does, because we're living in this third dimension, and so we're pulling in all of this information that's going on, and yes, they're trying to eliminate 90% of the population one way or the other. That's their agenda to do so. How much of it are we allowing into our bubble, our sphere, through our own anxieties, worries, fears, and so forth, is something that I'm trying to ask myself, Right. I think we have to know what's going on. We had this conversation before. We have to know what's going on. And then after that, we have to go, do what you feel like you need to do, protect yourself, and then ignore it and start refocusing on higher vibrational stuff.
Well, and it's all vibration at the end of the day. And that's the other place I go to, which is why I can just stick this in my pocket and get exactly what I need from it.
So cool.
Right. I mean, I think that's the level that this ends up going to. I mean, it's just fascinating to me when, and it is all a level of consciousness. And we did discuss this before anybody else got in here. The level of consciousness that you're at will either leave you in whatever level of fear you're in or whatever level of peace you're in. Right. And if I need this for whatever reason, because I don't have any in my receptors and I can just walk around with it, or I can stick some in my mouth. My son's like, be super careful because it will make you high fast if you're not used to it. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. So, I mean, it's wherever you're at, where you're at. Test it, ask your spirit. That's the whole point of getting heart coherent, right? Is to know that you can go in and ask, what do I need? When do I need it? How much do I need? Right, all of those kind of things.
Well, you can count on nicotine being a specific vibration that's higher and shatters snake venom vibration.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. And if you can tap into that, I used to tell this story a lot. I was watching years and years and years ago. It was these guys out in the Amazon, and it was some group like this that I had gotten into, and they literally had taken 8 people from America to the Amazon. They were all dying of something. Every single one of them was on death's door, and they were trying to heal these people. And so it was kind of their journey through it. And those of us that bought into the class, we were trying to learn, how do you do vibrational medicine on the level that the healers in the Amazon were doing it. And one of the shows, they were walking through the Amazon, and the guy was looking for very specific roots and herbs and different things. And he would just stop and like do whatever he was doing. And then he would go and dig a little bit and pull the root up and the herb or whatever it was. And he was just always, wherever he went and looked for it, it was just there. And the guy who was filming it finally asked him, how do you do that? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm just calling it. It has a vibration, and I know the vibration. And so he knew the vibration. I don't know the vibration of this because I have no experience with it. But every root that man looked for, he had an experience with. So he knew the vibration of it, and he was calling to the vibration, and it would call back, and then he would go find it and harvest it. And I just found that fascinating. I mean, if you can do that, like you can do that with anything, right? So even like food in your gut, when I was thinking about this today, I don't know why I haven't done it in so long. I used to fast when I was really, really big, and I was trying to lose all this weight. And I would do a fast, and one day I was just starving. I thought I was going to die. I was so hungry. And literally an angel, God, at that point, I'm not sure what it was, said, just picture food in your stomach. And I was like, you can do that? And it was like, you have experience with food, just put it in your stomach. And I was like, and so I literally just closed my eyes, and what I pictured was a cornucopia, and it was full of all these fruits and vegetables and all this amazing stuff. And I wasn't hungry for like 3 days after that. Had no hunger pains at all. It was so strange. But I literally think that's a vibrational coherence that you can be in, right? If you're so inclined to take it to that level, right? Which is why I find this fascinating. Just like, oh, this feels amazing. Go ahead, Lily.
Well, it's testing between 600 and 700. I thought it would be under 500 hertz. It's testing between 600 and 700. That's huge. That's a very, very high vibration. You would never think that nicotine or, tobacco would, or I tested tobacco, not nicotine, tobacco, tobacco plant.
Think of it this way. It is a receptor site in your brainstem that has to rate high. Because if it is a receptor site in your brainstem, that information has to carry more through the field of your physical body than we even have any idea. I don't even know what all it does. All we know right now is that it'll block venom. If you ever get bit by a snake, eat nicotine, right? Get some nicotine in your system. How does she test the vibration? Do you care to go into how you just tested the vibration?
I teach a class on it. It's how to discern truth instantly. And it's hard to explain in just a few minutes, but it's a way you can test for any truth instantly and no truth instantly, using the miracle of your body to do so. The miracle of the electromagnetic energy of your own body to do so. I'll let you guys know when I'm doing my next class. You can jump in.
And if you were paying attention, you saw her over there muscle testing, right? So those of you who know muscle testing, which there's many of you in here who do.
Yeah.
Faith just said cigarette manufacturers knew about those receptors. Yes, they did, which is why they tried to crud it up. Yeah. Horrifying. Yeah, throw it, Lily, throw your information in there whenever you want to about your classes. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really interesting that they would muck up, CBD, cannabis, and And nothing, yes, this is the reverse. When you find out the opposite of what we've been told is the truth, we're never meant to smoke anything unless you're a shaman and you're smoking for peace once in a great while, tobacco. It's not meant to be ingested in the way that we have or smoke it. The lungs are not meant to have anything but pure air in them. But man alive, we have been robbed of the benefits, the health benefits of these plants, these natural plants. It's crazy.
Yeah, the leaves by themselves will give you more than enough CBD and anything else that you could possibly want. Just the leaves from the plants are crazy amazing. Okay, let's move forward here just a little bit because like I said, I don't want to keep everybody all night. All right, so that was kind of the first part of what I wanted to talk about, was that there are things you can do. He did later throw in that list nebulized corticosteroids, and budesonide is the top level. He goes, some of the newer ones you don't want, and he didn't go into this a whole lot, but because I use these things all the time for my asthma, budesonide will actually block the same information from the venom, and it will take the inflammation out of your system, especially your lungs if you're having the lung issues. I think, let me backtrack for 2 seconds. The reason why I found that the nicotine so fascinating is because if those receptor sites are empty or not filled all the way, your diaphragm will not function properly, which means you can't breathe properly. That's exactly what I said, Jill. That's exactly what I said. I was like, no wonder I can never get my lungs to heal. My lungs are probably perfectly healthy. It's my diaphragm that's frozen in place, which is crazy.
Amazing.
It's mind-boggling to me.
I got sick twice really bad, and they checked my lungs. My lungs were fine. It was my bronchioles. They said I had scarring in my bronchioles, and I had bronchitis as a kid, but this was weird. I had not had a flu for 15 years before this came, and I got it before we even knew about it. And I knew because two of my clients were world athletes that came in to see me and visited with me in October. They had come back from China where the World Games were. They had just finished the World Games, came back sick as a dog, both of them. And they were just at the tail end of that when they came in and saw me. And I couldn't lift my head off of a pillow for 20 days.
So let's back the truck up hardcore here. So you're talking about flu now. Follow the trail, and Dr.
No, that was COVID. That was COVID. It was.
Okay, but hang on a second, because you brought up something that's really interesting. If you keep following the monkey trail backwards, right? And we know, and I don't know how much of this you guys have studied or looked at, we know that there's no such thing as a virus. There's no such thing as bacteria that will enter your system and do the things that we have been taught for years that it'll do, right? It doesn't exist. It does not work that way. We know that at this point. So what is going on? And Suzanne and I have had multiple conversations about this, that none of this stuff is illness the way, germ theory is totally debunked at this point. None of it works the way we were taught. You have been poisoned since day one. Every flu shot you ever took, if you took them, was poison. It's no different than this flu shot, COVID-19 flu shot. Every shot that they gave you as a kid, and my God, the ones that they're giving kids nowadays are horrifying, is a poison derivative. And if you read or watch the rest of the stuff that he presents, I'm sure he's going to start putting this together at some point, that all of those shots, because the amount of information that they have been studying on snakes and snake venom and antivenom for as long as they've been studying it, trails way before the upcoming of all the vaccines, even from when we were kids. I swear from day one, every one of us have been totally poisoned by, and if it's not in the air, it's in the water. If it's not in the water, it's in the ground. If it's not in the ground, right, it's in your food, it's on your plate. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So, I mean, I don't know. You can take this back as far as you want to take it, but I think it's something you have to keep looking at. So my question, because, and I know every one of you have done this too, is I have tried everything under the sun forever to figure out how to heal all the junk that I have been fighting with for my whole life. And so when all this stuff with the snake thing came out the other day, I'm sitting there and I'm just watching and I'm like ingesting it one after the other as fast as I could, just like, and then going back through it, trying to hear, because every time you hear it, you hear something else. And I was just like, holy cow. And I kept asking, okay, so then what's next? Which is always my question. Whatever's going on, is what's next? Now what? Now what do we do? Now how do we handle it? It's not panic over the, right? It's not the panic over the situation. It's like, okay, if that's the case, then what? And when I said that, another video popped up in my computer screen. And I'm going to show you part of this video, and then we're going to talk about it, because it left me scratching my head. It's like, what did I do? And it's even more stunning than the nicotine. I was like, this is not real. This is not real. But you've heard this. I know all of you've heard this. You have everything you need inside of you. And it's just kind of a fluffy thing, right? You have everything you need to heal on board. Like, where the hell is it? Because I'm not healing. How do you find this? So let me pull this one up. I'm going to go back to my share screen and see if I can find this. And we're going to watch it for a second. Do any of you know who Dr. Edward Group is? Type in the chat box if you know Dr. Edward Group. Edward, I'm going to tell you a little story about him real quick. Dr. Edward, Suzanne says, because we keep looking outside of ourselves. Well, because we don't know, right? It's hidden. Dr. Edward Group is an amazing person. He's got all kinds of background medically and school, right? All the doctorates and all the stuff. And I met him about 11 years ago at a Truth About Cancer. It was their first event. And I went because I was having so much problems with so many things, but I had so many clients that weren't just on the spiritual level. It was a physical. There was so much going on. I was trying to sort it all out. And they were talking about all kinds of stuff, but this Truth About Cancer thing. And so I went to it. And after he did his little speech, I was just like, he was talking about thyroid, and I had Hashimoto's, and he was just going on and on. So I went up to him and I had his book. I had bought his book, and I told him I was going to try what he was talking about. And he goes, "What's your issue?" And let me turn this back on real quick. I said, it's Hashimoto's and thyroid. And of course, I told him about my weight loss journey and all the blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "Hand me your book." And I handed him my book, and he opens it up and he starts scribbling in it. He goes, "Do this for the rest of your life. Don't ever stop. You'll be fine." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he goes, "Can you read it, look at it?" And I looked at it and I was like, "That's it?" And he goes, "For the rest of your life, don't ever stop. You'll be fine." He saved my life is what he did. He got me off all of the thyroid medications. He changed everything in my world with that little tiny recipe that he gave me. And I forgot to bring the stuff in here, but basically what it is nascent iodine. I take a couple of drops every 2 days. And then I think the other one is selenium. And I take a dropper full of that in my water every day. That's it. He goes, "Within a month, you'll be off all of your medications. Let me know how it goes." And then the next person, was running up to talk to this guy. And that changed my life. I've never taken thyroid medicine since then. That was 11 years ago. And my antibodies normalized. Sometimes they go crazy, so I add a little bit back more into it. I meant to pull his book off the shelf and actually show you what he wrote in there. And so I totally implicitly, first of all, I tell you that story because I totally implicitly trust this guy. He owns Global Healing. I think it's a .com, and it's got all of these supplements and vitamins, and he's where I get most of my stuff from when I have to buy things online. Absolutely love his products. He prays over them. It's an energetic thing to him. He knows about energy. He understands all of it. He buys the best source possible, all of this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Suzanne said he's MIT and Harvard. Melissa's asking, can I see him myself? I have no idea. You can try and contact him. I don't know that he takes actual patients anymore. Yeah, I'll show you the recipe. You can do what I did. My guess is it will probably heal your thyroid. So let me share my screen again. So I just wanted to preface this video with that information. So this is what popped up when I asked what's next. And I haven't listened to Dr. Edward Group in probably a little while. And so when I saw his face, I was like, aw. And then I read it. What is the golden therapy for survival? Look at the subtitle, the most overlooked and suppressed medical secret in the world. And so he's got my attention. I'm like, okay. So I watched it. Now I cut out the first 2 minutes. This thing is only 14.5 minutes long, first of all. So you have no reason not to watch this whole video. Let me give you the link super quick. I think I had it in the email I sent out earlier today, but I want you to have this. You have to have an open mind. He says that in here. I'm going to repeat it, and then we'll go from there. Let me play this little excerpt so you can hear him say what he's about to say, and then we'll go from there. All right, everybody, open minds. Dive into your heart space.
Wow. In the United States, we have doctors on every corner. Everybody can go and see their doctor. They can go to a clinic. But in most, we take for granted that we have natural medicine here. We can go to the GNC. We can get stuff, wherever we want. Herbs. Unfortunately, 90%, 80% of the world is not like that. If somebody is willing to do this, can completely take away all your fear and completely change the way that we view everything, we view our own bodies. And I honestly think with the research I've done, and I've spent thousands of dollars, and I've dug up ancient manuals for the last eight months. I've had a whole team working on this. I can honestly say right now that I think this is the most overlooked and suppressed medical secret in the history of the world. And what that is urotherapy. It's urine therapy, which is the golden secret to health. Now, I know everybody's mouth is dropping right now, and everybody's like, oh, that's gross and that's crazy, and I've never heard anything. Same thing happened to me. Hear me out. I've got all the evidence that you have something for free inside of you right now that will take care of anything, any health problem that you might be suffering from, and neutralize any damage you may have already received. For almost the entire course of the 20th century, unknown to the public, doctors and researchers have been proving that our own urine is an enormous source of over 2,500 vital nutrients, vitamins, hormones, enzymes, critical antibodies that cannot be duplicated or derived from any other source, as well as up to 6 unidentified compounds not yet known to man. Okay? Think about that. Your body, your self-healing mechanism, is the most powerful production of the most vital nutrient, of the most vital medicine that you will ever have. All right, so urine therapy benefits and uses. We can just say golden therapy. We can say urotherapy. Heart palpitations, infections, toothache, swelling, psoriasis. And I want to focus again on poison antidote there. Poison antidote. So despite what we've been taught by the medical model, which is that urine is a waste product, it's actually ultra-filtered blood plasma. The kidney has a filtration system known as the nephrons, and what they do is distill the blood down to its smallest particles before cold storing it in the bladder until it's time for you to do something with it, which is to pee. But urine is what I call the most nutrient-dense, mineralized drink on the planet, with properties that are antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-candida. That was from a urine therapy specialist. Okay, so I want to explain how that relates to what we're going through right now. In nature, Nothing punctures your skin. Okay, well, I'm talking about puncturing your skin and releasing a poison into your body. That's what's happening right now. People's skin is being punctured and a poison is being injected into them. So I'm going to show you how powerful this actually is. In nature, we have poisonous snakes, like you see here. We have poisonous spiders. We have bees. You know, anything that injects something and punctures your skin and injects a poison, it would be poisonous. What happens to the body when your skin is punctured and poison is injected into it? It creates a reaction, a cytokine storm, an immune response. Your body starts breaking down depending on what kind of poison it is. Your body has a hard time dealing with it. So I said, well, let's see if in nature, if you're injected by a poison, what's the solution to that? Well, you can go get the antivenom if you have time. However, it's been known in India and other parts of the world for thousands of years to survive a poisonous snake bite. You drink your own urine and you put urine under your tongue for 15 seconds and your body produces the antivenom and it produces the antibodies and you don't die from the poisonous snake bite. Now think about this. How long do you think it would take for you to die if you got bit by a cobra or a copperhead? Probably a couple hours, maybe a day at the most. How long do you think it's taking to die from a poison that's injected into you through a shot? Like I said earlier, I haven't heard any virologist, pathologist tell me that a lifespan is more than 3 years once somebody receives a shot. So here is just a couple pieces of evidence. A snake, probably a copperhead, pressed its teeth deep into my lower leg. I treated myself with the miracle juice, the urine. I went to the hospital and continued my treatment. The effect of the bite was, to our surprise, minimal. 1993, a man bitten twice by cobras, drank his own urine and applied it topically over the bite area, left the hospital without any modern treatment. So that just shows you the power that's already in you to neutralize as an antidote.
Okay. I want you to go back and finish watching the rest of that. I'm going to keep laughing all the way through this. What do you think about that? After hearing that, and have you heard it before? I've heard this before and I've totally just like blown it off because, and actually in a lot of TV shows you'll hear about, you know, the jokes they make about people peeing on themselves and, you know, they had the sting bite from whatever in the ocean or whatever. And I'm like, now here it is again. This is interesting. What do you think? Jill, your microphone is off. What do you think?
Yeah. So in the massage school that I went to, we actually talked about urine therapy, and that was the first place I learned of it. That was about 2013. And it was really interesting because I trusted many of the things that they were teaching us. The school I learned from, we learned natural therapeutics. So it was like, how does nature heal? Right. And so this was a practice that many people did. I was always going to try it, but I never could muster up the courage to do it. But I also at the same time worked with someone from India. And I talked with him about this. And it was really interesting because he told me a story of his uncle who basically he was going to die. He was told he was going to die. Nobody had answers for him. He saw an Ayurvedic practitioner, an older Ayurvedic practitioner. And basically he said, I think this is the only help for you, was to take the urine therapy. So this guy took the urine therapy. He was better. He was good. He was, doing things he hadn't done in years. He did it for about a year and a half, and they don't know why he chose to stop, but he stopped doing this. He died 4 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And they don't know if that's related or not.
Well, they're pretty positive it's related because sorry, let me back up in the story. He stopped one other time, and he saw the same practitioner, and he's like, look, you have to keep doing this because of whatever was going on with him. And then he stopped again, and then he died 4 months later. So he started again, he did well again, and then he stopped. And I don't know why. I don't know, what was going on for this guy.
Well, and I would say, like, if you watch that video, look beneath it. I should have scrolled down. Look in the comment section. There is story after story after story.
And I've heard many.
And I'm just like, okay. And what I understood, my takeaway after I listened to the whole thing was that urine is not a byproduct from your intestines, which is kind of what feces is, right? It comes through and we like, right, you're always taught it's a gross thing. Urine literally comes from your kidneys. It does not come from your intestines. It comes from your kidneys, and your kidneys is a filter, and it's filtering your blood, and it's a byproduct, right? It's I think what I heard him, or it was in one of the books I read, call what was the word it was used? It is a serum, right? It's a blood serum. And so it's highly, highly filtered. Melissa put down there, it's actually considered sterile, which is funny and interesting because that's not how we treat ourselves, right? When you urinate. It's really funny to me. I'm just like, this is hysterical. So the serum that you pee out actually holds all of this crazy medicine, and it's specific to your body. It is specific to your body. So I'm not going to lie. Like I told you, I would share with you everything I'm doing. I am trying nicotine because it's actually making me feel really good just being next to it. I've pared everything back down. I was doing all kinds of stuff. Now I'm doing his little protocol that he gave us: nicotine, zinc, hydrochloroquine, NACs, and I'm megadosing vitamin C because I always seem to do better when I megadose vitamin C. And then my steroids because of the asthma issue. But then I watched this and I'm like, okay, I am the crazy person in the group. I will never deny that. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens. So at the end of that video, he throws up 3 books and he says, these are all free PDFs that you can get. So watch the PDF. Go look up the information. Let me share my screen one more time. And let me see if I can find, where did it go? Here we go. Oops. Nope. I'm trying to share this book with you. I want you to see this. Can you see this page that looks like a book page? Anybody? I don't know if my screen switched or not. You can see it? Yes. Okay, so this is page 17 of a book called Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christy. And I found it online really super fast. So he threw the titles up there. Another one he threw up there was called The Golden Fountain by Lillian somebody. And I didn't find any, I'm not going to say useful information, but there was no information about this. So I don't know if he mispulled that title. But if you're interested in a whole another idea of God and spirit, and this is all full of Christ, I don't want to say consciousness. It's more kind of old school God kind of stuff, I guess. It was very strange reading it actually. But this one is all Your Own Perfect Medicine is all full of this stuff. So I'm on page 17. This is like studies that have been done. The Law Hospital in Scotland, 83, the American Review of Tuberculosis, they found that this cured tuberculosis. It would stop the pathogen that caused tuberculosis. That's out of 57. Symposium on Surgery of the Head and Neck talks about treating. I'm just like, what? With this idea, right? 1947, the Medical London Press has a thing in here. Dr. Doon, a medical advisor to the Irish Allergy Treatment and Research Association, directly mentions over and over and over lung issues, asthma, so related to COVID kind of thing, all the lung junk that's going on. Science Magazine, I mean, there's a Journal of American Medical Science, it goes on and on and on. Let me read this part to you real quick. It says, so what is a mystery miracle medicine, and why don't any of us know anything about it? If the body really does produce such an amazing substance and doctors and scientists have used it to heal people, why are the news reports and the accolades and the commercials and the media hype, like everything else, right? They just throw it under the rug. You want to know the answer, then prepare yourself by first opening your mind, which you really kind of have to do. Let go of your initial disbelief and preconceptions and get ready for the best kept secret in medical history. And then it goes on to tell you that it's urine, right? It says, surprise, before you scream, I don't believe it. Slam the book shut, consider this. Whether you know it or not, you've already reused, re-ingested your urine in large amounts of it for a long period of time. And it's one of the reasons you're alive today. This is super interesting. As medical researchers have discovered, urine is the main component of the amniotic fluid that bathes the human fetus, right? When you're in your mommy's tummy, you are surrounded by urine. Normally, the baby breathes this urine-filled autonomic fluid into its lungs. If the urinary tract is blocked, the fetus does not produce the fluid, and without it, the lungs do not develop. So this is not your mom's urine, this is your urine, right? You're basically peeing in the sack, and then you're breathing this urine in. And if you don't breathe it in, your lungs don't develop. My guess is I was holding my breath. Oh, that's not funny, but it's kind of funny. So, I mean, and we talked not too long ago in one of these classes about how they cut the cord too early from the mom to the baby, and they never let the baby, that fluid finish filling the baby's body, right? And it's vital, important information to that baby system. And it's basically coming from what we call urine. This is mind-boggling to me. So I would say go find this book and download it. Now, if you go to page, and I'm a speed reader, so which is why I love books so much. When I go through a book, I usually go through it pretty quick. And I read this in one day. I read this yesterday afternoon, actually. Page 186. I think. Let me see. Oh, right here. So it's 189. It tells you how to do this. Suzanne's asking whoever came up with the word urine. I know that's a good question. That's really an interesting question, actually. But it tells you how, right? So immediately people think, and this is probably from the TV show Friends, when you think urine therapy, you think, oh, you've got to drink a whole cup of this stuff. And if you go through this, right, you go through all of this information about how to do it. You start by taking 1 to 5 drops in the morning on the first day, and the second day, 5 to 10 drops in the morning, third day, 5 to 10 drops in the morning, the same amount every evening before you go to bed. Once you feel accustomed to the therapy, gradually increase the amount as needed for obtaining results of your condition. Now, they do say in here somewhere that there is a man-made version, which is, of course, what the companies who make all this stuff want you to go to, is their man-made versions, but it's not unique to you. Your body makes its medicine you because it knows your issues. It knows what you are struggling with. It knows what problems you have. And so you keep increasing it. It tells you not to boil or dilute it. Homeopathic urine, let's see. The importance, so this is interesting, the importance of using urine collected at the beginning or height of an acute symptom of illness, particularly infections and allergies, have been suggested by some researchers because this urine contains the greatest amount of antibodies and defense agents which the body is already fighting the illness. A homeopathic preparation preserves this potent first stage illness. So you can take that first when you first start getting sick, and you can turn it into a homeopathic preparation. They do tell you to monitor your pH because you want your pH to be balanced for this kind of a thing. So you can go buy test strips at the pharmacy. There's no big deal in that. But it gives you all of this information as to what to look for, what to do. If you're pregnant, don't do it without a doctor's supervision. That's just a weird thing to throw in there. I don't know. So let's see. Abby says, if all the good stuff is already in your body, why is your body get rid of it by urinating? So that's not what it's doing. And I might have to ask Suzanne to jump in here and help me understand this, or help me.
Okay, what he was saying, or what I was reading in there later today, was that actually when your kidneys filter everything in the blood, it will take what it needs, or what it needs to keep the system balanced within a very narrow range. Your pH is one of those things. It keeps your pH anywhere between, say, 5 and 8. If you get out of that range, you're screwed. So it will get rid of salts, or it'll take salt in. It does. The kidneys do all of that. And so whatever it doesn't need to keep that balance. So if let's say you ate a whole bunch of salt and you didn't need it, then the body's going to get rid of that, and it's going to push that out in the urine. So it'll take just what it needs, and then it flushes out the rest with the serum. So that's why the extra. So what I figured out later was what this is doing. This is actually how we design wastewater plants. I couldn't believe it when I was reading this. I was like, oh my God, what you're doing, you're creating a feedback loop in a hormonal and in other ways to your own body. Like you were saying earlier, Christy, the kidneys and that system, that's a different system down through the body than, say, your digestive. So when you take just even drops of the serum and you put that back through the digestive system, now you're amping up what your kidneys are already feeding your own body. It's the kidneys are already taking out some, but now you're putting it through one of the other parallel systems. That's why it works. Or in my mind, that's why it works.
That's what I was understanding too. And it's your body's not getting rid of stuff. It just has enough of it already in. So it's moving along what it doesn't need. And if you follow the trail of history and this idea, which even Jill was saying, they were taught it in their schools, it's ancient. This is an ancient concept. This is not a new concept. This did not just erupt the other day because we're having issues with snake venom in our water treatment facilities and wherever else this is going on, which is a whole nother interesting thing to think about, actually. Suzanne, you said something to me in a text message. I have to find this because it made me stop and go, wait, what did you just say? And I'm not going to think of what it was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It blew my mind though. And I was like, what? It was about, so if you're urinating, and one of the things that Dr. Artis went into was how are they getting the poison to us is through the water system, right? So that's kind of the basic gist of his whole thing, is like it's somehow they can target different areas. Like they targeted New York. That's how New York got sick so fast. They targeted places in California. That's how California, they've done this all over the place with different diseases at different times. They can target by putting the poison through the water. And it was like, well, if you're peeing, right, you're peeing in the water. And he specifically says on there, it's not about the urine because the urine's not the issue. Dr. Artis says this, it's the feces that's the issue. It's the feces that carries the information. And that's when your body is actually getting rid of the stuff that it doesn't want. It's getting rid of poisons. It's getting rid of toxins. It's getting rid of, that is not your urine, that is your feces. And that's what goes into the waste facilities. And that's the stuff that God knows what they're doing with. I don't even want to think about it. But it ends up back in our water supply. And that's how they're sending. So they poison the first group of people. It gets into the water supply because people defecated, and then it gets processed, and then it gets moved on, and then you get it because you drank the water. I'm so disgusted. I can't even, that part blows my mind. But your urine is not that. Your urine comes from your kidneys, and it is a purified form of your blood that carries information that they've used for centuries to heal. They've used for centuries. I mean, I can't even look it up, right? Try and follow the monkey trail and read that book. Did I stick that in there? I did stick that in there. Yeah, thoughts. Yeah. Anybody? Questions, thoughts? Miss Lily, go for it.
Well, I knew that it was used for jellyfish. So it does have an anti-venom, property, because it stops the venom from jellyfish urinating on their stings, which is really interesting. I find it interesting, and it tested correct, and I'm like, damn it.
Think about this. It works on jellyfish because your body needs help because it got stung by a jellyfish. It works on inflammation. It works on inflammation because your body is inflamed and your body needs help with inflammation, and your body produces what it needs. Have you ever heard the term the fountain of youth? You want to know why they can't find it?
It's in the bladder.
It's in you. It's in your kidneys.
Wow.
It's in your kidneys. It's in you. It's always been in you. You know the term healing waters? Healing waters flow, right? It's an old kind of Christian, there's healing waters coming forth from your gut. What does that mean? Everybody always thought it was metaphorical. I don't think it is. I think it has to do with the production of this serum from your kidneys that comes through your bladder. It's all inside you. They told you that. We just didn't know where to look. And I would say go read everything you can, right? I'm big on convincing yourself. Here's what I did and here's the outcome. Let me tell you what I did. I am crazy. And I'll try anything once. When my kids used to have to take medicines, I always took it first. And if I couldn't take it first because it was emergency and they were in the hospital, I would take it later to know what they went through, even if it was an adverse effect on them. I always did that when they were little because I wanted to know. I wanted to know what they were going through, whether it was good or bad. And so when I decided to do this, I had to get coherent. I was like, crazy, weird. Okay. But I read all the stuff and I was convinced. I'm totally convinced. But it's still, right, because your thought process. So I did my work. I went to my heart. And I talked to my spirit about it. My spirit told me it's Fountain of Youth. Where do you think the Fountain of Youth is? And then I heard this thing about the healing waters. And I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. So 1 or 2 drops, right? 5 drops, whatever. Get yourself an eyedropper. You can buy them at the health food store. You can buy them all over the place. And then it's a little cup idea, and it tells you all this stuff in that PDF. Clean yourself first, do the whole 9, pee in the cup, and it's just first like 2 or 3 drops, right? Midstream, and then you just take a couple drops. He said, Dr. Group said, hold it under your tongue for 15 seconds.
That makes sense. Going into the stomach is not where you want it to go. You want it to go down through those glands.
Sublingual, right? So under your tongue for 15 seconds. And then you just kind of notice. I immediately, if not faster, this was weird, noticed a rush of energy in my body that I have not felt in years. In years. I cannot explain it. I was like, what on earth? And it lasted for probably 6 hours. And I was like, what? Totally different feeling. Totally bizarre, like super bizarre. So whatever my body is producing, my body is obviously missing. you have to put it back into your body, right? You have to take the living water to make the machine work, I guess. So I think I'm on, we'll call it doses, dose 4, since I started doing this. So this is just like seriously just the other day, but I am so blown away already with the results I'm getting that I'm like, all right, I'm sold. I'm like totally sold. I have not gone above 10 drops. So it said, 1 to 5 drops, 1 to 5 drops, 5 to 10 drops. And you I haven't gone above 10 drops. But the inflammation in my gut, which I've had forever, I've fought with this forever, is shrinking. So where my stomach used to out from my rib cage used to be like it would bloat and then it would go away and it would bloat and it would go away. There's just like a little bit left hanging at the bottom of this inflammation that I'm just like the kind of information you could grab and go, right? I'm being very real with you about what this is. It's almost gone. I'm like, you're joking. So they say put it on something on your skin, right? If you have a cut or whatever, like heal stuff instantly. I've had this spot on the side of my face, and I've had multiple cancers over the years cut off my face, multiple. And some of them very hideous, like they would have to go in and do the Mohs surgery where they're taking layers and taking layers and taking layers and taking, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have a nose left. Please stop, right? Like scary, scary stuff. And I put some of it on this dot over here that I've known has been an issue for a while, but I won't go to see a doctor because I'm not going to go through that again. And so I put frankincense on. I put all kinds of stuff on this poor little thing. And I did it again this morning, and this afternoon it started itching, and I stuck my finger up there and I was like, oh, and I'm like feeling around, and this fleck of skin came off. And I'm like, you're joking. Like all that's left is this little divot feeling thing. And I'm like, are you being serious? I can't see it in the mirror anymore. I used to could see it. 2 days. 2 days. Internally and externally. Yes, I'm putting urine on my face. Also under my tongue. I'm blown away. I am blown away. I don't know what else to say about it. Anybody?
Christy, what was that ingredient with the selenium that you took for your thyroid?
Nascent iodine.
Spell that.
Nascent iodine. I don't know that I can. Nascent. And Dr. Group's version of it is excellent. He sells it on his website, globalhealing.com.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I can't prescribe anything and I can't tell you to do anything, obviously, but if you don't try this, I'm going to say you're crazy. If it is the thing that would heal your whole system, no matter what you're dealing with. The other thing I've noticed, so I've had those 2 things happen. The other thing I've noticed is my attitude's different. How it affects your attitude, but my attitude is not the same. I have a really good friend that lives in Denver and used to be every time she'd call me, she'd go, attitude check. So I was like, you don't want to check my attitude. I have the worst attitude. And it's gone. That attitude. I'm like, I have no, like the weird, I can't describe it. It's a subconscious thing. I don't know if it's subconscious or not because I can never get rid of it. But it's like this pushback that I had against certain people around me and different things that would come up. I have this like, and it's always, right, because they're always around me. So there's always this weird pushback. It's gone. I sat there laughing about things that I would normally sit there picking over because that's what we do. And now I just sit there kind of laughing about it. I had to come back with a quippy comeback, and that is not me. I was like, what on earth? The only thing I can attribute it to is whatever my body's getting from the feedback loop from the serum. Let me tell you my prayer. So this is a prayer I use. I put a prayer over everything. Those of you who know me well enough to know that I do that. So the prayer I'm using is when I put the drops under my tongue, I'm saying, now I bless this serum to be the most effective for me and everything in this moment. now. I keep doing in this moment now, everything, right? So now I bless this serum to be the most effective for me in everything. And here I am. I'm like, seriously. Could you imagine if you knew this when you were a teenager? when you weren't afraid of things? Like, yeah, let's just, I mean, if they taught this as a normal, I don't even know. I'm just blown away. They've known about this for centuries. And in our medical world, they've known about it as long as we've been creating pharmaceutical drugs, if not longer. Thoughts, ideas, questions? Yes, please.
I want to say a couple of things. Interestingly, there's some things I was looking at as well recently. And it was one of the things within what I was looking at, it was looking at the timeline of when people lived longer. And I don't know if the graph I was looking at or the data I was looking at was completely accurate, but we don't live as long as, people did during biblical times. And the person sharing this data was saying that there was this really incredible drop off from like hundreds to like 35. And then over time, we've increased that 35 to it's about 70 in the 70s now of normal lifespan. And I don't know this. I'm totally just hypothesizing. But the drop-off happened about 200 years before Christ. And I don't know, right? Like that was the Roman period of time. Was there something then that they began to say, this is, unhealthy? I'm just hypothesizing. I don't know. So I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just an idea. But the other thing I just wanted to share is what I learned in school was that it's very much, if the cleaner the diet you eat, the easier it is to drink your urine. And I have tried it. I didn't try it in school, but I have tried it. And not for a long period of time. But what I have noted, what I did to get myself to even be able to get over that idea of like the smells, blah, 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 is I drank a lot of, there's a mixture within Ayurveda. It's salt, it's lemon, and it's honey, right? And so I drank a lot of that before I needed to go to the bathroom. So then it didn't smell, right? And then I could kind of get past that. The smells, I can't do it. So just wanted to share.
Definitely don't eat asparagus.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh, that's messed up. And I mean, right. So, and that's one of the things they tell you is the cleaner diet you eat, the better this will go. Even a more vegetarian diet, like to start laying off the meat, you don't want to, right, get that out of your system. I don't know. And the idea of when I actually got all the way through the end of it, because in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like you have to drink like a cup. Like, there's no way. There's no way. The 5 drops was tolerable. 5 drops was like, oh, that's really not that big of a deal. Like, I'm sure I've had worse things in my mouth than my own urine. Like, I am sure of it. And I was just like, oh, that's crazy. So 5 drops was like no big deal. The result is what sold me, right? The result that I was having. Suzanne says TCM considers the kidneys as holding your life force gene. What is TCM? You said that once before to me. I don't know what TCM is. Jill said true. What is TCM? Somebody help me out here. I'm in the dark on that.
It means traditional Chinese medicine.
Oh, you're beautiful. Okay. I should have known that. Yeah, right. The kidneys, which produce your serum, right? And I don't call it urine. I will call it serum because that's what it is a serum. It's a blood serum. Oh man, I just started taking it right away. But I'm an alchemist. Suzanne's losing it over here.
I feel weird. I feel weird because y'all are all, because I'm thinking, man, I must have had a rough life because I have had, not always by choice, but like just had some really terrible things that I ate or drank. Sometimes I didn't know or what, like, I was like, this is nothing compared to some of this other crap that has happened to me. So it just didn't bother me at all.
That's where I was. I was like, this can't be that big of a deal. I don't know. What have you noticed? Because Suzanne, are you willing to admit you're doing this too? I think I just admitted it for you.
Yeah, no, I did. I've done like 3 doses thus far. And yeah, there's an immediate shift in the body. And I don't even know if I can say what it is. Like there's just something happens. And then I'm noticing, so my head got all messed up. Like it's like I've got cotton in my ears, but I don't have, there's no fluid in there like it normally is. I don't know how to fix it or what's going on with it. It's related to this other stuff I've got. And my head's starting to clear out. I've had 3 doses, but my head and it's been like that since November of last year. And all of a sudden it's clear. And I'm like, really? Really? So I'm like, well, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. Like, but if your body is truly, I mean, if we are alchemists and our bodies make the chemical, it's not a chemical, I don't know what you call it. It makes the serum it needs. And you're not afraid to use the serum, right? Because of everything we've ever been told and taught and given false teachings about.
It feeds the microbiome, Christy, is what it's doing.
Say it one more time.
It's feeding your microbiome. So again, remember I said this is just like the wastewater plant. So you have to think about what you see and what you don't see. So the microbiome, which you'd have to have super microscopes to see it and all that stuff, all that's happening. Hormonal levels, all of the hormone response, that stuff is happening. It does it on all the multiple levels, all the way down for your DNA, specific for your DNA.
Yeah, totally specific for your DNA. If you read the book and go back and listen to Dr. Group talk about it again, go all the way through his thing and just listen to what he says. He makes it sound like whatever's going on in your body knows how to spin the right say the word for me, the right combination of information, right, in chemical, hormonal, whatever form, to give you the right medicine. It's like your kidney is the factory that produces the medicine. Go ahead, Jill.
Well, and Suzanne's right, because it is all about the microbiome, right? So one of the things he had listed on there was that it was anti-candidated, right? And most of us in the West, like the diets that we have, so much sugar in the diet, we have an out of balance level of candida, because candida feeds off the sugar, right? So that means we have more bad bacteria than we have the good bacteria. So when Suzanne's saying that it's working with the microbiome also creates serotonin, right? So that's the happy, the feel good, right? Like, so that feeds our brains, right? So when the microbiome is balanced, it can handle whatever your body needs to address or deal with. But when the microbiome isn't balanced, then issues pop up in the body.
Right. Right. I'm guessing you just now totally described my feelings of, and euphoria is probably a little too much, but my feelings of euphoria because it altered the serotonin output in my gut.
Yeah. Because the good bacteria, because the good bacteria can create the serotonin. But when we have the bad bacteria, it doesn't create the serotonin.
It's amazing that so if I've done this 4 times, it's amazing that less than 40 drops created that big of a difference. That is mind-boggling. I cannot even tell you the amount of drugs I have taken from pharmaceutical companies that have never made me feel like this. ever. So I wanted to throw this out there. And there's a few of us doing it. Suzanne's just one. There's a couple other people I know that are doing this all at the same time. And some people are in way worse condition than other ones of us. But everybody's getting results that they're like, seriously? Seriously. Like, it's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. So if you are of the mind to try it, read the book. Read the book. Go to the back and at least read the how-to part of it. It'll give you some definite instructions. And then, I don't know, you have to prove it to yourself like anything else. You have to be able to prove it to yourself. Did I hear somebody?
We didn't get the link to the book.
I don't have a link to it. You actually have to look it up. It was called, and that's what I did. I just Googled it. I Googled PDF. Let me see if I can find it again. It's called Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christy, PDF. And it's free. You can download it for free. And at the end of his movie, at the end of Dr. Group's, not movie, at the end of his video, where did you guys go? There you are. At the end of his video, there's a list of 3 books. That one was the one that my spirit drew me to immediately. The other one is I don't know what it is, but you can read it if you want to. And then I'm not sure what the third one is. I never even got that far. So Suze is over here still looking up the word urine. Did you read this? 1300s from French, urine, directly from Latin, urine. Also Greek, variant of root, water, liquid, milk. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Source also of Sanskrit water. There's the water of life. That's what my spirit told me. The milk, right? The scripture talks about milk flowing, milk and honey. That's maybe why Jill came up with using honey, because you need the honey to bring from it. Oh, that's funny. Wow. All righty. Say that again. Say what again? That's crazy. Watch the water. I don't know what to say about any of this, except that, you got to step out of the box at this point. Don't listen to what they tell you. Try things. Have first-hand knowledge of things, because the more you do that, the better you'll probably do. And if this is supposed to be a self-healing mechanism like they say it is, it should self-heal without you having to go outside. And somebody else had already said, like, all the different things we buy and think we have to take, like, it's ridiculous. You wouldn't believe all the junk that I'm sitting next to. This is insanity. And it's all inside of you. Eat clean, lower the intake of meat, right? Make sure your water is from a clean source. Right? Make sure your water's from a clean source. I think that's what's getting Dan and I, is the water at the club we work in is not filtered. And I think the water in Salt Lake is probably as poisoned as anywhere else. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that's where a lot of this came from. Bless your food, bless your kidneys. I love that. Thank you. Put your hands over your food. If you're not blessing everything that goes into your mouth, I actually had that written on my sheet. Everything you put in your body, you should be blessing before you ingest it. Everything. All right. Anybody, anything else you want to say before we jump off of here? Was this helpful, or am I just total lunatic at this point? Is it helpful? Let us know if you're going to try it. I'm going to keep talking about this and giving you my results, because I'm blown away. I truly think that's the fountain of youth. That is the water of life that flows from your gut that the scriptures talk about.
Christy, one thing I'll mention, did you know that there were several of those studies where they were collecting people's urine, and that's how they're making certain drugs and things. This is how they give that to these women in fertility clinics. They take, and what's funny is they were taking urine from postmenopausal women to give it to the other women who wanted to get pregnant. The
postmenopausal. I read that.
Postmenopausal. That blew my mind.
I saw that in there. That's right. Yeah,
Well, and the other thing connected for me, remember when Dr. Artis was saying that the way they make antivenom is they basically shoot the horse full of the snake venom, and then the horse creates the antivenom. They pull it from the horse. That's the same thing. That's the same thing we're doing. That's what you're doing. You're taking, if you've taken in a poison or something like that, the body fixes it, and you're just giving yourself that anti whatever.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that, but that's funny. That's interesting.
I mean, it's the same thing.
It is the same thing. They stick the venom in the horse and then draw the horse's blood serum, and that's what they make antivenom out of. They said that over and over, and I never even related that. That's interesting. Wow. So we're taking the poison and making our own antivenom and then peeing it into the sewer. That's awesome. That's crazy. Urine has antivenom. Well, I mean, if you need it, right? Which is, it doesn't have it in it. It creates it. Your kidneys create it when you need it. It creates whatever you need. That's what most of the studies are alluding to. So if you need it for inflammation, your body creates the stuff that you need for inflammation. If you need it for, I don't know, I'm curious to see what it'll do with my eyes topically. I couldn't believe that this fell off. I don't know. I gotta go eat. I can smell food cooking. Lily says I'm on board. Right? Well, what do you have to lose? I've tried everything else. I cannot tell you the extent, and I know every other one of you has too. The extent we've gone to trying to heal our bodies and our minds and everything else, and you sit there wondering, why on earth does this stuff keep happening? But I think it's because we're putting our most vital resource. I mean, I think there's a lot of different levels of this. We're putting the most vital resource down the drain, which is not giving tribute to your own physical body, right? It's like, you're just like, ugh, I don't need your help, right? And so you're throwing it down the drain, and then you're just kind of pissing it away, literally. And your spirit's probably just sitting there going, seriously? This is the source of life. This is the source of life. Right? Even in utero, you cannot survive if you don't have this fluid surrounding your body. Mind-boggling to me. Let me catch some of these comments down here. So Lily's on board, Sally's on board. 5, that's what I said. 5 drops, I can handle that. Suzanne said I was going to start an apothecary with the stuff I bought. I'll send you mine. I'll send you all of it. So strange. I knew urine was sterile, but I still think of it as dirty. Yeah, I had to do the mind work. I had to do some heart coherence work over that one. Babies swim in their urine. Thank you, Christy. Love you all. Love to you too, Miss Lily. And I love this. So Melissa has a medical background. I didn't know that, and I didn't read it in any of the stuff that I was reading, that urine is sterile. So that's really funny and interesting. That's funny on top of everything else. Crazy, crazy. All right. We'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.